Don't you dare bring that up right now. Josh snapped at me over breakfast, his hand tightening around his coffee mug. I just think we should wait a few more years before trying for a baby. The words hit me like a physical blow, and I fought back tears as I stared at my untouched plate. My name is Julie, and I'm 33 years old. I work as an elementary school teacher in Austin, Texas. For the past 2 years, I've been living what I thought was just an unfortunate struggle to conceive, but I recently discovered it was all a lie. I'd been obsessively tracking my cycle, changing my diet, and going to every fertility specialist in the city. Each negative pregnancy test felt like another failure, and I blamed myself completely. Was I too stressed? Was I eating the wrong foods? Was there something fundamentally wrong with me? Josh would hold me while I cried, stroking my hair and telling me it would happen when the time was right. That morning's argument about children wasn't our first, but something in Josh's reaction seemed different. He'd been getting more defensive lately, and I couldn't understand why. Still upset from our fight, I decided to tackle the mess in our attic that afternoon while he was at work. The doctor had suggested staying busy to manage my anxiety, and I desperately needed the distraction. I was going through old boxes when I found it, a manila folder stuffed inside a dusty storage container marked 2022 tax docs. I almost set it aside, but Josh's name caught my eye. As I pulled out the document, my hands started trembling. The letterhead was from Austin Medical Center, dated March 15th, 2022, exactly 8 months before our wedding. This letter confirms your vasectomy procedure has been successfully completed. The paper crumpled in my shaking hands as 2 years of guilt, self-blame, and heartache transformed into something else entirely. Josh had known. Through every doctor's appointment, every negative test, every tear-filled night, he had known it was impossible. He had watched me tear myself apart emotionally and physically, all while keeping his secret. The rage that filled me was unlike anything I'd ever felt before. It wasn't just anger. It was ice-cold fury. I carefully smoothed out the paper and put it back exactly where I'd found it. Then I went downstairs, made myself a cup of tea, and started to plan my next move. Josh had no idea what was coming, but he was about to learn exactly what his deception would cost him. I sat at our kitchen table, staring into my tea as my mind raced. The version of my husband I thought I knew was crumbling away, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. How many times had he watched me cry myself to sleep? How many times had he held my hand during yet another disappointing doctor's appointment? All while knowing that he was the reason we couldn't conceive. My phone buzzed. A text from Josh. About this morning? I'm sorry I snapped. Let's talk when I get home. Love you. My hands shook as I read his message. Even now, he was keeping up the act. I thought about all the money we'd spent on fertility treatments. Treatments he knew would never work. The specialists, the supplements, the endless tests. I'd even started seeing a therapist to deal with what I thought was my failure to conceive. Going through my phone's camera roll, I found a photo from 6 months ago. Josh and me at my sister Rachel's baby shower. I remembered breaking down in the bathroom that day, and Josh had comforted me saying, "Our time will come, honey. We just need to be patient." The memory made me feel physically sick. I opened my banking app and started calculating. Between medical bills, fertility treatments, and specialists, we'd spent over $15,000 in the past 2 years. Money that could have gone toward a house down payment, or travel, or literally anything else. Instead, it had been wasted on a lie. But confronting him immediately would be a mistake. Josh was clever. He'd manipulated me for years, letting me believe I was the problem. If I showed my hand too soon, he'd find a way to twist this around. Maybe even make me doubt what I'd found. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I needed a plan. I pulled out my laptop and started researching divorce lawyers. Then I remembered Sarah, my college roommate who now worked as a financial advisor. She'd helped another friend through a messy divorce last year. I made a note to call her tomorrow. Josh's betrayal wasn't just about the vasectomy or the lies. It was about the years of watching me suffer, letting me blame myself, all while playing the role of the supportive husband. He'd stolen my time, my money, and my trust. But most importantly, he'd stolen my choice about my own future. Well, now I was taking that choice back. I heard Josh's car pull into the driveway around 6. Taking a deep breath, I rehearsed my composure one last time. I had already put away all evidence of my afternoon discovery, making sure everything in the attic was exactly as it had been. The house smelled like the cannelloni I'd thrown together, his favorite meal, though now the thought of cooking for him made my stomach turn. "Something smells amazing," he called out as he walked in, briefcase in hand. He came up behind me and tried to kiss my cheek, but I shifted away, pretending to need something from the cabinet. "About this morning," he started, his voice gentle. "I know you're frustrated. Maybe we could look into more natural fertility treatments. I've been reading about this holistic doctor." I almost laughed at the absurdity. Here he was, suggesting yet another dead-end treatment, knowing full well why nothing would work. Instead, I forced a smile. "Maybe you're right about waiting," I said, watching his reaction carefully. "We could take a break from trying." The relief that flashed across his face was subtle, but I caught it. "I think that would be good for us," he said, reaching for my hand. "You've been so stressed lately." Stressed. Right, because that was the problem. Not his secret vasectomy. Over dinner, I let him dominate the conversation, talking about his day at the real estate office, nodding at appropriate intervals. All I could think about was the call I'd made to Sarah while he was at work. She'd given me the name of an excellent divorce attorney and advised me to start gathering financial documents. "I was thinking," I said carefully, pushing my food around my plate, "maybe I should look for a better paying teaching position. You know, for when we do start our family." Josh smiled encouragingly. "That's a great idea, honey. You're such a wonderful teacher. Any school would be lucky to have you." The ease with which he played along made my blood boil. "I'd also need to start documenting his lies," Sarah had said. "Everything could be useful in divorce proceedings." "I might stop by the bank tomorrow," I continued. "Look into our savings options." "I can handle the finances," he said quickly. Too quickly. "You don't need to worry about that." But I did need to worry, because according to Sarah, Josh had been moving money between accounts for months. Small amounts, nothing obvious, but it added up. Had he been preparing for the day I discovered his secret? Or was this just another layer of his deception? I watched him eat his cannelloni, chatting about his plans for the weekend, and felt something harden inside me. He thought he had everything under control. He thought he could keep manipulating me forever. He had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I called in sick to work. As soon as Josh left for the office, I drove to meet with Patricia Walker, the divorce attorney Sarah had recommended. Her office was in downtown Austin, in one of those sleek high-rises that made me feel underdressed just walking through the lobby. "Your friend Sarah filled me in on the basics," Patricia said, gesturing for me to sit. She was maybe in her 50s, with sharp eyes and an even sharper blazer. "But I need to hear everything from you." I pulled out the manila folder I'd photographed in the attic. As I recounted the past 2 years, the fertility treatments, the deception, the financial irregularities Sarah had noticed, Patricia took detailed notes. Her expression remained neutral, but I saw her jaw tighten when I mentioned the dates. "He had the vasectomy before your wedding," she said, "and never disclosed it?" I nodded, fighting back tears. He watched me go through all those treatments, knowing. "That's more than just deception," Patricia interrupted, her voice firm. "He allowed you to spend substantial amounts on medical procedures he knew couldn't work. There's a strong case for financial fraud here." She pulled out a legal pad and started writing. "First, we need to secure your finances. Open a new account at a different bank, one he's never used. Start moving small amounts of money. Nothing that would raise red flags." "What about the vasectomy paperwork?" I asked. "Should I take it?" Patricia shook her head. "Don't remove anything from the house yet. We'll subpoena those records directly from the medical center. More importantly, We need to document any new lies. Texas is a one-party consent state for recordings, which works in our favor. My hands were shaking as I took notes. Everything felt surreal, like I was planning a military operation instead of dismantling my marriage. One more thing, Patricia added, her expression softening slightly. Don't confront him yet. Men like your husband, they're good at manipulation. If he realizes you know, he'll start covering his tracks. I left Patricia's office with a detailed action plan and a strange sense of calm. My first stop was the bank, where I opened a new account and applied for a credit card in just my name. Then I visited my doctor's office to get copies of all my fertility treatment records, proof of the thousands we'd spent on procedures Josh knew were pointless. When I got home, I had a text from Josh. Heard you were sick? Want me to pick up soup on my way home? I stared at his message, remembering all the times he'd played the caring husband. The morning sickness remedies he'd bought me when I thought I might be pregnant. The foot rubs after disappointing doctor's appointments. The shoulder to cry on when every test came back negative. That would be nice, I texted back, adding a heart emoji for good measure. Two could play at this game of pretend. I spent the rest of the afternoon going through our files, photographing everything that might be important. Bank statements, tax returns, investment accounts. I found a drawer full of real estate documents, properties I'd never heard of. Josh had been busy with more than just his vasectomy secret. Just wait, I whispered to myself, carefully replacing each file. Just wait. The following week was an exercise in self-control. Every morning I'd kiss Josh goodbye as if nothing had changed. Every evening I'd listen to his stories about work, nodding and smiling while secretly documenting everything. The voice recorder app on my phone became my constant companion. Sarah's investigation into our finances revealed more than just Josh's minor money movements. There were 2 investment properties I'd never known about, purchased the year before our wedding. The down payments came from an account I didn't have access to. When I mentioned this to Patricia, she immediately filed for additional financial discovery. Your husband's been planning this for a while, she said during our follow-up meeting. These properties, the vasectomy, the separate accounts, it's a pattern of deliberate deception. But the real shock came when I received a call from Dr. Martinez, my fertility specialist. I'd asked her office to send over my complete medical records, but there was a problem. Mrs. Anderson, I noticed something unusual while reviewing your file, she said, her voice careful. Your husband called our office several times requesting we delay certain treatments. He said you were having anxiety about the procedures and needed more time. My hand tightened around the phone. He what? He specifically asked us to push back your hormone therapy appointments, said you weren't emotionally ready. She paused. Given what we know now, I felt you should be aware. I thanked her, hung up, and barely made it to the bathroom before throwing up. Josh hadn't just passively watched me suffer. He'd actively interfered with my treatment. All those rescheduled appointments I'd blamed on the clinic's busy schedule had been his doing. That evening, Josh brought home takeout from my favorite Thai place. Thought you could use a treat, he said, setting up dinner. You've seemed a bit down lately. I forced myself to smile, thinking of Dr. Martinez's revelation. Just tired from work, I replied, watching him serve the food. Actually, I've been thinking about taking a break from teaching. Maybe look into other opportunities. His head snapped up. What kind of opportunities? I don't know yet. Something different. I shrugged, noting how his shoulders tensed. Maybe real estate. You always make it sound so interesting. Teaching is your passion, he said quickly, and the stability is important for when we start our family. The casual way he said it, when we start our family, made my blood boil. But I kept my voice light. You're probably right. It was just a thought. Later, after Josh fell asleep, I slipped out of bed and checked his phone. Patricia had warned me not to do anything that could compromise our case, but I needed to know. His recent calls showed multiple conversations with a number I didn't recognize. I wrote it down, then carefully replaced his phone. The next day, Sarah ran the number through her financial investigator contacts. It belonged to a divorce attorney in Houston. Josh had called them 6 times in the past month, so he was planning his own exit strategy. Fine, 2 could prepare for war. The next revelation came from an unexpected source. I was picking up coffee at our usual spot when Maria, the barista who had worked there throughout my fertility struggles, pulled me aside. "I've been wanting to tell you something," she said, glancing around nervously. "Your husband comes here sometimes with a woman. I thought maybe it was work-related, but—" My heart stuttered. "But what?" "Last week I overheard them talking about property investments and divorce lawyers. She was saying something about making sure you didn't find out about certain accounts before everything was in place." Maria touched my arm. "I know it's not my place, but after seeing you go through so much—" I thanked her and sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel. Sarah had mentioned a woman's name appearing on some of the property documents, Rebecca Wilson, a fellow real estate agent at Josh's firm. Now it all made sense. That afternoon, I met with Patricia again. "We need to move faster," I said, showing her the notes I'd gathered. "He's planning something with his colleague." Patricia nodded, reviewing the information. "Actually, this works in our favor. We've gathered enough evidence of financial misconduct to file for emergency orders. We can freeze the accounts he's been hiding." "What about the vasectomy evidence?" "The medical center confirmed the procedure date, 8 months before your wedding, just as you discovered." She leaned forward. "Julie, we have him on multiple fronts: financial fraud, medical manipulation, and marital deception. The question is, how do you want to proceed?" I took a deep breath. I want him to feel as helpless as I did. I want him to understand what it's like to have everything pulled out from under him. "Then let's plan this carefully. The element of surprise is crucial." That evening, Josh was working late again, probably with Rebecca. I used the time to put the final touches on my escape plan. I'd already secured a small apartment, paid for in cash through a friend of Sarah's. I had copies of all important documents and records of every lie he'd told over the past 2 years. The next morning, Josh was especially attentive, making breakfast and asking about my plans for the day. "Actually," I said, maintaining my best innocent expression, "I was thinking about looking into those natural fertility treatments you mentioned. Maybe you could come with me to the consultation?" The panic that flashed across his face was almost comical. "Oh, honey, work is really busy right now with this new development project." "The one with Rebecca Wilson?" I asked casually, watching him freeze. "You've been putting in a lot of hours on that." "It's a complicated deal," he said carefully. "Lots of moving parts." I bet there were. That night I lay awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing. Tomorrow all the pieces would be in place. Patricia was ready with the court filings. Sarah had documented every hidden account and suspicious transaction. Even Dr. Martinez had provided a detailed statement about Josh's interference with my treatments. Soon, he would understand exactly what it felt like to have your whole world exposed as a lie. I chose Sunday morning for the confrontation. Josh was sitting at our kitchen table drinking coffee and checking his phone, completely unaware that his carefully constructed world was about to implode. "Hey, I found something interesting in the attic," I said, placing the vasectomy paperwork on the table. "Want to explain this?" The color drained from his face. His coffee cup clattered against the saucer as he reached for the document with trembling hands. "Julie, I can explain." "Explain what?" "How you had a vasectomy 8 months before our wedding, or how you watched me blame myself for 2 years while knowing it was physically impossible for me to get pregnant." He stood up, desperation replacing shock. "I was going to tell you." "When?" I cut him off. "After how many more fertility treatments? After how many more nights of watching me cry myself to sleep?" My voice was steady, even as rage coursed through me. "Or were you waiting until you and Rebecca finalized your exit strategy?" His head snapped up at Rebecca's name. "How did you—" "I know everything, Josh. The hidden properties, the secret accounts, the calls to the divorce attorney in Houston. While you were playing your games, I was building a case. A case? His voice cracked. Check your email. Our lawyers can handle the communication from now on. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and the accounts you've been hiding? They're frozen. Good luck explaining those to the judge. Josh scrambled after me as I walked toward the door, his composure completely shattered. You can't do this to me. Those properties, those accounts, they're mine. Actually, I turned to face him, according to Texas marriage laws, they're marital assets you illegally concealed. Patricia says the judge will be very interested in that, along with the evidence of your medical deception. His face contorted with anger. You went through my private medical records? The accusation was so hypocritical I almost laughed. Like how you called Dr. Martinez's office to delay my fertility treatments, or how you and Rebecca have been planning your own divorce strategy. That's different, he started, but I cut him off. You're right. It is different. Because while you were destroying my trust and watching me suffer, I was gathering evidence. Every lie, every hidden account, every manipulative action. It's all documented. His phone started buzzing. From his expression, I knew he was receiving the legal notifications about the frozen accounts. He stared at the screen, face growing paler. I trusted you, I said quietly. I loved you. And you let me think there was something wrong with me while knowing the truth the whole time. Julie, please, we can work this out, he begged, his voice cracking. I'll explain everything. I picked up my pre-packed bag from behind the door. You can explain it to the judge. I'm sure they'll be very interested in hearing why you spent 2 years watching your wife undergo fertility treatments after getting a secret vasectomy. As I walked out, I heard him collapse into a chair, his world crumbling just like mine had in that attic.